Hello, hello. How we doing today, my friends? What's going on? How are we? Happy Tuesday on this extremely long, extremely slow international break that we have here. How has your day been? I hope it's good. Good to see you all. DB Cooper, Min Chow, Sam E, M.E. Good to see you from the start. Samix, my friend. Rohan, how you all doing today? Is everybody doing well? The the international break is this one is a dragon. It is easily the slowest, most long-winded international break. I feel as though it is the quietest week I have ever seen at United. I mean, even around Onana, you get like 2 days and then it's like whoop, quiet. It's so quiet. It was quiet before, it's quiet after, but there are a few things to talk about. And really, we're just here to kind of hang out, talk, go through some of the news with a look forward. But I'm not going to lie, man. I've been struggling a little bit to try and make sure I have things to talk about. I've been digging deep to make sure I have subjects to discuss, and I do have a few things to discuss. It's not necessarily a bad thing that it's quiet during the international break. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I am going to talk about some things. I want to talk a little bit more about Onana, not too much more, but just a little bit. One sec. So, yeah. You took part in Kev Coins, but did you know that there are repercussions, forfeits for your end results with the Kev Coins? I don't think that part was disclosed. No, probably not, but we will get to that. We'll get to the hate coins too, and all of those things. But yeah, it is frustrating getting, especially off. Look, there's two ways about this. If we lost against Burnley, the international break would have been horrid. But then you win, and you're like, kind of want to keep the momentum going. I definitely think it's better going in with a win than a loss. No doubt about that. I mean, it's always better to win than lose, but still. So, yeah, there's a few things that I want to speak about at this point in time. And one of them is Onana, so we'll get to that. The other thing is the January plans that are being confirmed. Following that, the next 3 signings United want to make, the next 3 positions that they want to target in their rebuild. Did a video yesterday kind of going through the rebuild, so I hope some of you have watched that as well. And then there was something else, but we'll get to it. I've got an agenda. Here. Some training, players back, and then we'll yap a little bit. But that's the idea. That's the plan. And certainly we're going to talk about Baleba and what that has to do with January, because there's a real chance. There's a real chance we make some serious moves in January. So that's what we're going to get to here in just a second. Let's go. Give me 1 sec, and then we're going to get right into it. All right. Cool. Let me put my poll up today. Have you liked the video? Yes. No. I don't want January signings. And please make sure to like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and all of that. We've seen your... Am I going to watch England tonight? Probably in like a second screen type of thing just to keep up with it. But I'm going to be honest. I find it really hard to watch certain stretches of international football. And this first international break in September feels so horrible to watch that, it is what it is. When we get closer, when there's a little bit more impactful maybe when there's more meaningful things. Look, next summer when we do the World Cup, we'll be watching them. We'll do watch-alongs, we'll do recaps, we'll do all sorts of stuff during all of that. But this one is rough. But we'll see. I'll probably second screen some games after the live here. But yeah, let's get right into it. Tuchel makes Southgate look exciting. Remember my conspiracy theory from last time. Don't forget it. Don't forget my conspiracy theory, okay? Hello, Stuart. Good to see you, buddy. That January Baleba transfer is going to hit. Yes, indeed. Remember my conspiracy theory about Thomas Tuchel causing trouble and what he wants. I think he's going to gun for the United job next summer. I just have this feeling. He is acting as a destabilizing force, and he's not particularly impressing with England, is he? So we will see. Hello, Morton. Good to see you there. So that was the conspiracy theory that Thomas Tuchel is kind of destabilizing United a little bit with some of the stuff around Mainu and others, so that he can hope he can come back in for that job next summer and kind of make these talks like, oh yeah, well, I would play you if I was manager, things like that. It's just a theory. But we'll see. They should hire Glasner. Maybe. All right, let's get into it. Take too long. So on Andre Onana, I wanted to just briefly kind of touch upon some of the last things that I'd said about this that I do believe have been reported today by others on Onana and where this has gone. One of the biggest leading factors that, of course, led to Onana leaving now this summer is the main thing, even before the contract demands and all of that, was this point on when he came back from training, from summer. He came back and got injured immediately, instantly. And I told you when that happened that Ruben Amorim was incredibly unimpressed with this. So I have to give a little bit of criticism. Here to Ruben Amorim and the people involved. I have to. I try not to sometimes, but I have to on this. They got this wrong with Onana because Ruben Amorim, his feeling after last summer was that, you know, maybe they could get by with Onana, that he kind of liked Onana, that he was kind of okay with him, that there were aspects of his personality that he liked, that he thought he could fight back. I've met him, and I think that he is a, that he is a, a personable guy, that he is a friendly guy, that he's kind of a funny guy. I think it's understandable that you can get maybe a little bit fooled by his personality. Maybe it's not even saying fooled, because let's be real. When we talk about football, when we talk about players performing and all of that, it really isn't personal. There's really, really nice guys who are really great hard workers that just don't make it and just don't have what it takes. And they're good guys and all of that, but that doesn't mean they make for good footballers. I would give the example here of like Mason Mount, who is someone people really like, always. Great attitude, all of that. And he's had struggles with injuries. You know, not his fault necessarily, but these things happen. Well, with Onana, there was a lot of confidence expressed by him in fixing things up and all of that kind of stuff. And then, after giving him that trust and faith, which I think is an error because I think they were fooled by his apparent attitude of, that doesn't necessarily translate to being a good footballer, unfortunately, or a good keeper. I think, unfortunately, they were fooled. And then, seriously, I've said this before, they saw the videos of him playing striker on a messy dirt pitch with potholes everywhere. Look, I'm not trying to insult where people play in their home countries and things like that, where people come from. But you're a player purchased for £45 million. Just understand the scale of finance involved in this. £45 million. You're paid nearly $200,000 a week. You're not allowed to go fuck around in dirt fields on holiday. Just like I would say, don't ride a motorcycle, don't drive way too fast, don't do stupid shit. I think there's actually clauses on this stuff that exist in U.S. sports, if I'm not mistaken, because there was an incident with somebody, a Chicago Bulls player, I remember, who was drafted and then essentially ended his career in a motorcycle accident and all of that. And but I believe that there are, and look, I would say that applies to anybody, by the way. There's things you just shouldn't do. I know in U.S. sports, there are actually contract clauses about this kinds of stuff that tell them you're not allowed to do this. Yeah, the NFL has clauses like you can't go be playing street basketball or something like that. Like they literally have clauses that are covering this where you forfeit your pay. And, there's like insurance and things like that if you're doing things like this because it happens. Because you're a huge, massive, expensive asset that a team and a football and such is investing in. Yeah, there are clauses like this in other contracts and things like that, but it's like there are, there's a lot of stuff that's happened over the years that has been created the necessity to prevent this. But then here's the thing. If you're going to do that, all right? If you're going to do that, and if you do that, don't come back unfit. If you're taking that kind of risk and then you come back and you're actually unfit, that's crazy. I mean, at least Ahmad came back and played football. At least, maybe Ahmad did some things maybe weren't so good as advised, but he didn't get injured. And sometimes the result is what you can measure by. But when you've had a bad season, 2 bad seasons, 2 bad seasons, it's like it's all about like it's all about like the visuals on it. Like if you're a really, really good keeper and you've had good seasons and you're like if you're good and people love you and you're performing well and you're doing all of that, it's the same as any job. You could get away with a little bit more. You can. You just factually can get away with a little bit more. There's no doubt that footballers and people under Sir Alex, the ones that were performing, were getting away with stuff. When you're shit, you need to be like, I cannot be caught dead doing anything other than exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. You just can't. It's so silly. It's so silly. And then when you come back, kind of the feeling is like maybe he was hiding a pre-existing injury. You know what I mean? When he came back to get injured so quickly, like maybe he already had muscular strain, a hamstring strain from the shit. And you open the door. The point is you open the door to questions, right? Whether you got injured there, whatever. When you're already struggling, when you already know what's going on, and then you come back and get injured, you open the door to questions to where the belief becomes, did you actually get injured doing that in summer and you didn't tell us? And then you came back and got injured in training. Did you actually already get injured? Because there's injuries people can hide. There's, especially talk about a keeper. There's ways injuries can be hidden. You know what I mean? So it's just something to think about. I would say for sure he probably almost certainly was injured before he came back. You look at like hamstring injuries, you can have a grade 1 like Cunha, right? Where it's just a strain, there's no tearing, you're doing whatever. And then you can strain it further when you come back. It's just silly. It's just silly. And he's gone. It's just silly. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not smart. It's just not smart at all. The whole thing, when you're not doing well, it's just not smart. One second. So anyway, that's that. So he's gone. Amorim was unhappy with that when he came back, and that situation kind of occurred. To ask for a contract, I think, is like the icing on the cake of like, are you joking? But anyway, that's that. I gotta say they misread it, because I've looked at it and I've said I think you're being fooled. Earlier on, I think you're being fooled by thinking he could do it. You know what I mean? By thinking you could do it, I think you're being fooled. It's a player that's made silly mistakes before. I mean, yeah, he did get banned for doping because he took something that he wasn't supposed to. It's like this. Unfortunately, Onana has not made smart career decisions at this point in time. I think they were fooled because there was very little that gave me any kind of faith, like why you would trust in this keeper on the pitch and off the pitch. So, that's pretty much it. Yeah, pregnancy med says a mistake, negative self-awareness. Exactly. So anyway, I hope he has a good season over in Turkey. I hope he does well there, and he'll likely be sold next summer. And I hope he gets his career on track and has a good end of it. No ill wishes in that respect, but for United, there was very little reason to have faith in that. I also think, in addition, when it shows, it shows that obviously there's a lot that they're like gonna just go in the deep end with Lammens, in my opinion, because then you don't have your backup keeper, you don't have your guy who was first choice all for the last 2 seasons. There, he's gone, boom, and you just hop on board. So I think they've definitely dove in, head first on that and said, all right, it's time to go. It's time to get out, and we've got a new keeper in the door. So yeah, I think Amorim was pretty pissed about that whole situation after, he definitely did kind of back him, previously. And I think it was a mistake in judgment, but at the same time, at least they got over it in the end. Okay. So I think that's the end of this story that we've been talking about for some time, at least till next summer. Bomb Squad 2.0, summer 2026. We will be there. Talking about the rebuild and a potential, kind of Bomb Squad aspect, thing. I thought it was really, really interesting, once again, to kind of look at just the amount of turnover that was done, which I covered in yesterday's video. And I wanted to talk about, just lead into what positions really come next, and all of that. Good to see you, McMillan. Hope you're well. Hope you're all right. Sorry to hear that, but I hope you're doing well. But, what actually comes next? Because, there are a few positions that United are still targeting. Obviously, we know about some of them in the midfield, and we'll get to that. But there's a few others as well. And what I kind of wanted to go through is look at, first of all, what they've really done, look at the squad as it is presently, look at who is potentially, in their prove-it seasons, and where we could end up. And I think the answer is really clear as to what they want to do next. And it's all in alignment with the way that they've approached things, from the beginning. I don't know if anybody remembers that really stupid picture I made a while back of like the arrow being filled up, and it was like step by step by step by step. Well, we've almost completed all of it. With the goalkeeper, we've almost completed all of it. The next phase was always going to be a few more things. So we'll get to that in here a second. But I wanted to look at, I talked about this yesterday, and I realized, wow, it's crazier than I thought when you look at what we've really turned over at this club over the last 10 months. And one could look at it as like targeting high wage earners for the sake of targeting high wage earners. How do I go back a year? I had this on. Oh, yeah. Here we go. One could see it that way. I don't really see it that way. I see it as targeting based on effectiveness. But if you go over the wages, this is two seasons ago, not last season, but the season before. So, essentially since then, Ineos have been in control since the end of this. And if you look, Casemiro will be gone next summer. They've obviously been trying to sell him. Gone, still here. Playing at the moment, but is in a serious prove it mode. Gone. Final year in prove it mode. Gone. Injured. Gone. Like, it's actually insane when you look at this. Like, genuinely, they've took the wages from down probably 30 to 40%, down 40%, while replacing a majority of these players, and most of the guys they're signing are in this wage bracket and below. So this whole top end, 1, 2, 3, 4, five, probably maybe 6 as far by the end of next summer. Pretty much this entire top end of wages gone. Just gone. And a huge amount all over the place gone. Like, the amount that's actually been turned over is kind of incredible. And it's where we're heading now. And if you look at it, like, it's already gone down quite significantly, but you still have players, moving down. Some of these are overestimated, by the way. But that's fine. And then you have some players still in prove-it years. But then you look at, like, the value of the signings, like guys like Mbumo, what wages and things they're coming in. But we're come down to something like 52%. And if you look at that video that I did at the end of summer to talk about the general math of the whole thing, United have essentially saved something like 50 to 70 million a year in expenses over the course of the summer while rebuilding. And that's in addition to the cuts they've made behind the scenes. How much does it cost to become a member? I think it's $2.99 is the lowest or something on here. $1.99, $2.99. I don't know. It's on YouTube. You could, I think the button should be there. But appreciate everybody who does join as members and all that. I do need to make a members video. Thank you for that reminder. I will make one this afternoon for the members, a very small one. But I want to talk about some things that are a little less solid and get into it ahead of time. Just things that I wouldn't necessarily put out as like public news, but that's kind of the point of the members video. So thank you for the reminder on that, and we'll have something for members a little later today. But yeah, after this season, you could see Casemiro go, you could see Bruno go, you could see a few players, Maguire. That could be 3 of the 4 players in the top of our wages gone again, and potentially, De Ligt could be on, not De Ligt, but Bruno, Harry, if he stays, will likely be significantly lower. So either way, we have a really, really strong chance at seeing, significant further wage cuts, as well at this point in time. So it's quite impressive. It's quite interesting how much. Yeah, we had like 9 or 10 players over 200. We're going to be down to maybe 1 after next summer. Maybe 0. Because you also have to bear in mind the players that we're signing. We're not signing Galacticos yet, right? We're going to sign Galacticos, and this is a big part of this whole rebuild process. Remember when I was giving the analogy the other day of the car, right? And building it up before you strap on the rockets and making sure it's really sustainable and all of that. We're not signing Galacticos, right? We're signing Cunha's, Mbumos, these guys, like good, solid, strong Premier League players that are taking their next step up. And then, no, De Ligt will be here. Good, solid players taking their next step up. And then at United taking that big leap forward. when they're going to get those big wages is when we're winning titles. That's when they'll be getting another step up. We're prepared to bump up wages. That's why we're starting all these players at 150, 160, things like that. So that if we go and win and we start winning trophies and titles, there's the room to push up the wage structure. Has any team bar Leicester won a title whilst having a mid-table wage structure? Probably not. But to be fair, even with our wages slashed, I think, Jim, we're probably still at like third highest wages or something. Just our turnover is really good because we have such good revenue, right? So the thing is our wages have just been out of whack. If we get to the third, if we're like the third highest wages and we're performing at a third place level, that's good. That's how it's supposed to be. What we've been doing is paying top level wages to perform at a mid-table level. We need these things to meet. Once they meet, that will tell you we're paying the right wages for the right players for the right performance. Then we can add some big top performers on top of that. You know, as players grow and do better, bumping things up. I expect it's going to increase over time again. But it's about getting all the guys who weren't contributing. I think it was 6 months ago I showed how like almost half the wages at that point in time were contributing. Now, some of them have come in and started to contribute. Casemiro, Mount, and Shaw are actually playing football. But the rest are all the players who were sold this summer. So, you know, it's like, boom, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. And then you actually have room to bring it up. If players are really motivated, you help us win things, we give you new contracts, right? Once it's settled, go and get some of those Galacticos where we're not trying to unlock them after signing them, but they're already ready to come right in and work. You know, they're already ready to come right in and raise the bar, raise the level. So, you know, you could bring in your stars to take you to the title once you've got things settled. But we need to be performing around what our wages are. And I think that's, you know, the biggest thing right now is that it's just, we have to get it to that. We need to find that equal ground where the wages isn't exceeding performance so much, because that's just really not fair. And that just means we're spending our money poorly. So I think we'll be spending it, you know, better moving forward. So yeah, some of this is going to change. It's going to continue to go down. And by next summer, even with signings, I doubt we'll even increase our wage bill overall with the players that are leaving, sold, things like that. I mean, this still includes even like some money for Sancho that is probably not going to be in there. Some other players that'll be sold and gone and things like that too. So there's quite a lot in there. And again, means there's room to grow for others. But in addition to that, you know, just looking at the team itself in terms of who needs to, hang on, I forgot to put all the players in. I must have missed a couple here. In terms of what positions we're going to be looking at, you know, the next stage of the rebuild is really obvious. The first thing is the midfield. We have to improve this. Both Bruno and Casemiro could leave in the future. We don't have this settled in the long term at all. I think we'll get by this season. I think we'll get by at least to January. But this is the next phase. They want 1 or 2 midfielders. They want that. Then what's obvious here, and the reason I haven't included Leon here is he's not made a match day squad for the first team yet, so he can't really be considered that. We need 1 or 2 wingbacks, depending on Diogo Dalot's performance. This is, for Dalot, a prove-it year. This is a prove-it year for Diogo Dalot, okay? So he's one of those prove-it players. We need at least another wingback. And another wingback or 2 would help add as well to potentially adding someone to the front line, as we may need another player here in the long term too, even though, you know, it kind of depends a little on Bruno. But if we get another wingback and Ahmad can go up there, then we get more flexibility. So the wingbacks might solve that problem as well. But 1 or 2 wingbacks. And then you've got Shaw, Heaven, and Lissandro, none of which are 100% certainties, and Maguire going into his final year. The plan is, and has been, 1 to 2 midfielders, 1 to 2 center backs, and 1 to 2 wing backs. That's the next phase of the rebuild and the 3 signings we're going to be looking at. Midfielder, defender, wing back. Those are the three positions that are coming next in the priority list to kind of complete their rebuild. Could be two. In any of these positions, it could be two. There is a little bit of prove it over this season for a few of these guys, and there's ages and there's injuries and things like that. Like we know with Shaw, like we know with Lissandro, like seeing how far on Heaven gets. Sean, welcome to the promo, but thank you. And then with Maguire, will he stay? He wants to stay. What are we looking at there? And everything. Now, that's an interesting point. We have to try for Guehi. Yes. Now, here's an interesting one. We might. And that leads me to January. We know what the three areas are. Midfield, center back, and wing back are mainly the next names in there. I've talked about 6 midfielders that we could look at for potentially 2 different positions over the next 12 months. So we know that. In January, we want to sign a midfielder. We want to. And Baleba, and again, the plan has been the guy we want or nobody. I've been saying that's the reason we didn't panic. That's the reason we didn't make a signing. That's the reason we didn't go ahead with it. It was confirmed. I don't think I've done a live since this. Maybe I have. I get confused. It was confirmed in the deal sheet, and it was confirmed by Fabrizio as well that this was the thing we're doing. Now, when I say wing backs, I wouldn't worry about it so much. What if it's someone like Semenyo? You know what I mean? Don't think super specialized wingbacks. I think there'll be players with flexibility who can play as a winger or a fullback. Wingback is a bit of a strange one anyway. Does Patreon get an exclusive video, please, Mr.? I will put the same update in there, Smokey. I will put the same update in there, okay? I will put the same update in there for sure. Manchester City injury list. Let's come back to that, by the way. Let's come back to that. Yeah, I haven't done a live for a couple of days. So January we want, and I think we're going to make a new attempt for Baleba at that time. It could be we leverage the AFCON situation and say, before AFCON, try to get a deal done for Baleba. Because we can look at Brighton and say, listen, you're going to miss him for a few more games. We want to get a jump on this. If we can get a deal done now before AFCON, we'll be the ones missing out. You'll have time to replace where you'd be missing him for some games anyways and all of that. I think we might approach it early on and see if we can leverage that situation. But I don't know the specifics of how we negotiate and all of that. I'm speculating there a little bit, but what I am sure of is that they want to do some business in January and ideally get a midfielder, and again, ideally get somebody they really want. That's important. In addition to that, of course, we do have the money. We do have the ability to spend. You look at the amount of money that could be saved here. You know what I mean? We have money to spend. We have the ability to do it. So yeah. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by that Semenyo one, because if I was to look at 3 names that could potentially work, I'm not saying we'll get them, but let's say one name for each position. If you were looking at the Ineos trend to a degree, you might go like Baleba, Guehi, Semenyo. Give you a wing back who can also play in a winger in any system, a center back, and a midfielder. And that would kind of fit the model of players that they would look to. So I'm told they want to get a midfielder in January. It's been my understanding since before the end of the window, and Baleba being one of the main ones that they would want to go for. In addition, there's talk over getting one of a defender in. Now, there's been talk of center back. There's a situation where I'm not saying we're going to get this, because I think Guehi is probably on his way to Liverpool and there's not much we can do about it. However, it's not done. What if we try? You know what I mean? It could be possible to bring him in. We could look at a wing back as well. So we will see here. Those positions aren't decided, but again, there's a big willingness. I'm saying the players aren't decided. The positions are decided. Those are 3 of the next priorities in the window, period. I can tell you that. I'm not saying there won't be more, because some of it's, performance dependent. If Mount can't stay healthy, we're probably going to need another 10. But that also speaks to Semenyo because he can play in all of these positions. Depends on, how many midfielders we get is still up in the air, how many center backs still up in the air. Some of these things are still up in the air. But it is certain we are looking at right now those 3 positions and building out those big lists of players that we can look at. Yes, I would certainly like to keep an eye on that Zeno de Bast one, as well as I know United have watched quite a bit in Portugal, and obviously Amorim will know him, but we haven't signed any ex-Amorim players as of yet, so we'll see. Yeah, free in summer, he might be able to pay in January and steal him. Liverpool will probably try to buy him in January anyway, though, so I guess it just depends, you know what I mean? But we're targeting the right positions, we're targeting, yes, the right profiles, and we're willing to do business in the window. That's the main thing. We're looking at midfielders, we're looking at defenders for January and beyond. So I wouldn't be surprised if we try to get some business there. Part of the view as well is that you're getting a really short summer because of the World Cup. Summer's going to be chaotic. We've seen the last couple World Cup summers. The last couple World Cup summers have been rough, have they not? If I'm not mistaken, they've been tough. They've been tough in doing business. But there's the article the other day saying Liverpool and Guehi not guaranteed. Well, yeah, I think we should try to get our names involved there. But gosh, if you took this team, I'm just looking at it and thinking this might be a little bit too attacking. But forget that everybody doesn't have to start every game, that we might be going 2 games a week or something like that. And forgive me if I'm putting players in the wrong positions or things like that too. But just for a second, imagine we could get 3 signings in and we ended up with a team that looks something like this. Whew. Whew. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a team. That's a team full of talent. You might have to balance it a little bit, but it's a team full of a lot of talent and a lot of prem talent and a lot of pace and space and physicality and athleticism. This is a team I would be very, very excited about. You know what I mean? So I think they're doing the right things. The names are far from certain as of yet, but man, I would be all over that kind of team. I think that's a team. Get Anderson? Yeah, maybe. The team would be decimated by. But this is the last one. This is the last AFCON during the season, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm saying maybe by the end of next summer, not all in January. But just imagine next year. We're going forward with a team like this. This is a team where you'd look at it and say, we could build towards a title. We could build towards a title with this team. They just need time together. That's all I think. Time and development together. So that's my feeling. Glenn, welcome to the Pro Muppet. Thanks for joining, buddy. Results have been way worse than I could imagine, but I see the vision and I'm willing. Right. Yeah, exactly. The vision is there. It's like I said, ripping things apart, tearing it down. Sometimes you lose a lot of those senior players that are bailing you out a little bit. And in the short term, it takes more time for other players to get in. But in the long term, it's there. But listen, by the end of next summer, I'm telling you today, some of these names might change. But by the end of next summer, we will have a team that looks kind of like this. We will. And it will be a team that all it needs is time. All it needs is time, continuity, and training together. And then, when you look at it afterwards, thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Then you look at it and you go, bar Bruno here, young. And when I say young, I mean like they're all going to be under 28, 29 years old. This is a team where the whole team could be together for 5+ years. You don't usually get that. You add Mainu into here and you sign a few other players around for backups and competition and all that. But it's a team that could be together for 5+ years. You know what I mean? That's what we need, where each season we're not going, oh, we need 3 more players and this player's getting old and this. We need to be able to look at it and say, okay, where can we strengthen? Where can we just strengthen to just be better? It feels like there was, a time where young are in their primes, for like 5 years. It feels like there was a time, during like Liverpool and City's dominance, obviously, where they got to that point where their core was so settled that very little was changing year to year. You know what I mean? And it carried them through things that happened. So, and then look, maybe you add some crazy stars, one crazy star player on top of that or something. I don't know who you could get, but we'll see. But regardless, it gives me a lot of confidence in the rebuild that we're doing. It gives me a lot of confidence in the direction that we're going when I look at what could happen just one more year. A totally brand new 11, a totally brand new team. But the players improve at seasons. There's Mount and there's Xerxes and there's Ugarte and there's Dallo and there's Maguire and there's Shaw. We need some of those guys to come through too, because otherwise we're going to be ending up with some holes in the team. That. But then again, we could potentially make up for some of those with youth. You know what I mean? Because here's the good part. Here's how I feel, and here's what I've seen where we've actually been doing it right. We're signing players, and our prove-it players are becoming backups. The guys we need to see something from are becoming backups. And the guys that are new or more proven or more established or already performing are the starters. That puts us in a good position where there's an opportunity as well for youth. There's an opportunity for some of these academy players who are on the verge to come through next year and take some of those spots. Like that spot behind Mbumo, that could be Shea Lacey's. That could be Mentato's. That could be somebody like that coming through, right? Some of those wingback positions, same story there. There's spots here that could be up for grabs for some youth players, some of the best youth players coming through. They're there, that they could grab some of those spots. And instead of having to force them in as starters, like one of the things that's a little bit thrown here, and I get it, and this is where people worry a little bit about the academy record and these types of things, is when you look at our team, there's not a lot of space right now for academy to come into the starting 11, beyond maybe Kobe Mainu, right? There's not a lot. But that's okay. Guys, that's okay. If you look at a lot of the players that have come through from the other clubs via their academies in recent years, they came in as those backups, less pressure on them. We've thrown the academy kids into the deep end each time as starters, and then we've needed so much from them because we needed them to be a part of the starting 11 that they end up floundering and failing. And then they're gone. Or it gets too much, and then they're not actually good enough. But we have these demands of them, and if you look at them, we've pushed so many starting academy players into the starting 11 that have ended up kind of falling apart and things going wrong. It would be much better if we could push them into those backup roles where they're getting, for a few years, regular backup minutes, regular rotation minutes, getting to develop under much less pressure and things like that. So that's what's exciting to me about the way that it's being built. I know there's some worry over the academy, but at the same time, I think some of it is misplaced. I think what we're seeing is a situation where we don't need to demand academy players come into the starting 11, and we're so used to seeing that over the last 10 years that it feels like we're not prioritizing the academy, when in reality, we're probably going to end up in a situation where they're playing they're coming into less pressure positions. And I think it's going to, in the end, work out a lot better. That's my opinion. That's the way I see it. I don't think there's a dropping off of the academy. I think that it's come in cycles, and I think that you can see it's sort of, We've forced through too many of the academy players when they're not ready and then not good enough, and then they go. And let's just bring them through in a proper way under less pressure and give them that time. And I think that's where we're headed. So kind of excited about that. Training, I don't remember what I wanted to talk about with training. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But some of the players are back in training today. Some will be back in training tomorrow. Some will be back Thursday. One of the positives is that I feel like last year, if I'm not mistaken, somebody else may remember. I feel like last year we always played on Saturdays after the international breaks. Okay, I feel like we always played some on Saturdays after international breaks, because I remember the last couple seasons, it feels like we'd have this, especially with the South Americans, we would see the South Americans playing on Wednesday night, getting back Thursday, and then we'd have a game on Saturday, and they could never play. And it would really fuck with the schedule. You know what I mean? And we've got games today on a Tuesday, and then it's like, well, players return on Wednesday and Thursday, not a lot of time. The game being Sunday seems a lot better. I don't know why, but I swear we always played like Saturday early kickoffs after international breaks. So I'm encouraged that we're going to get a decent amount of time on the training ground. They're doing training today, tomorrow. Lamans will be there. A lot of the players will be there. We see Casemiro's already back because he's suspended from Brazil. That's good. So it seems like we're getting. One of the things this is what I wanted to mention on this. I was thinking the other day about why I was thinking the other day about the some of them will return today, some tomorrow. I was thinking the other day about the way those tactics videos and how the point I noticed for myself, not really talking about the videos, but the point I noticed myself in rewatching the games is that week to week to week, they were actually fixing things. Last year, this is part of my reason, okay? This is part of my reason for why I don't really bother so much with the results and things that happened last year. When people go, oh, we saw these problems last year and they weren't fixed. Last year, at one point, I did an explanation of when we're playing 2 games a week, what the actual schedule looks like, and I want to explain it again now. When you're playing twice a week, which we pretty much were the entire time that Amorim was there, I think he had 1 week that we didn't. There was, like, you play on Sunday. Monday is cool down, recovery day. A lot of players are getting most of the day off. Tuesday is usually just preparing for the next game. Wednesday would often be travel. Thursday, you play in Europe. Friday, cool down and travel. Saturday, you're preparing for the next game. There's no time in 1 week with 2 games to actually do what people would consider like training and tactical work to improve and fix the problems that you're dealing with. You just don't get the time to do it. And that's the reality. That's why you don't really expect things to fix often mid-season when you have 2 games. There are 2 advantages to United only having a game a week, and that's why we need to see these advantages, but it is encouraging me in what I've seen in the first 3 weeks. One is the tiredness, right? You don't have those midweek games to get more injuries, more rotations, like Chelsea are playing Bayern before our game, right? Secondly, on top of that, what else goes on? You actually get time. If you look at how does a week go now when you have a week in between. Let's say we play on Sunday. Then there's travel Sunday night, usually if it's in England. Monday, warm down, recovery, and the coaches get together with the analysts and people and look at the data, rewatch the game, pick out the problems. Tuesday, they're able to then actually get together, have like the film meetings, the team meetings, talk about what's actually happened, show them what went wrong in the last game, go out and start fixing it. Wednesday train, Thursday train, Friday you then are preparing for the next game or traveling, and Saturday preparing, traveling, or playing. on Sunday. So in a full week, you're getting like literally 3 full days of analyzing what's wrong and actually working on fixing it. 3 days every single week that you weren't getting before. So it's not like you just lose the one day by having all these midweek games. You're losing 3. You don't get the chance to actually work on shit. It's 3 more full days of analysis and tactical work and problem solving during the week. And I think that that's what we're starting to see, is why things are getting. It is every football team's problems. The problem is, you know what the problem is? We've never had a team where the system was laid in that allowed us to go through a season without being in the process of trying to learn something brand new. So like Ten Hag comes in. He's trying to implement a whole different system, and we're in the Champions League. What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, that's not really how most teams work. Most teams had a much stronger foundation than we did. So you look at a team like Chelsea, they had that season finishing 12th, allowed them to work through that season and actually grow properly. And like we have seen that before. The truth of the matter is we probably needed, in one sense, a full season outside of Europe to lay the foundations. If we had no Europe last year when Ruben came in and we weren't playing in Europe and playing through those rounds, and look, it's like an if or this or that type of problem, because you'd like to have the money. If we had no games last year midweek, if we had no Europe, that last 4 months of the season would have just been training, system. Now, we were still had to get rid of a bunch of players, but we've never had this under any of these managers. I think Jose, Oli, Ten Hag, even Rangnick, when he came in as an interim coach, we were in the Champions League. We've never had this ability to work during the season on the problems that arise and fix it. I'm extremely skeptical it takes so long to implement a new system style play. I don't think it takes so long either. I don't think it takes so long, right? I am more impatient than most on that. What I think is there was nothing that got done last year on that, Daniel. Like that's how I see it when I look at the scheduling. I think that they don't even get to it because of 2 games a week. I think we've only started. That's why I give this season a fresh start, essentially, for Amorim. I'm saying he has a summer. The advantage he gained from last year is getting to see the players who are already there. But in terms of laying in a system, we didn't do it last year. We didn't. When? When did we do it? When did we do it? When would we have laid the system in that Sunday through Sunday schedule? When did we get to do it? When did they get a chance to actually work on these things in training? And when Ten Hag was here, maybe he could have, maybe he didn't. Maybe this is a problem he ran into too. Could well be. He just had them running all week. You know what I mean? So we've never done it. We've never done it. And when teams have laid in a system from the top down, it's not so much these wild swings back and forth. You know what I mean? It's not so much these wild swings back and forth. They've had foundations. And a lot of times when people point out, like you say there, Elite Baller, which is fair enough to have this opinion. But a lot of times when you point out things like, let's say, Glasner and Moyes was getting Everton playing better. They're playing the same football they've played for the last 10 years. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not like Everton have changed the way they've played football. Crystal Palace were built by Dougie Freedman and had a way of playing. Glasner came in and improved it, but they did have a way of playing that they've been doing for quite some time. They've had similar profiling of players and signings and people that they had for years to put into that team and build. So Glasner came in and did a good job, but bear in mind that, believe it or not, the foundations at Crystal Palace from a playing perspective are stronger than what we had. They were. because the squad was built with an idea in mind from a top down. I know Dougie Freeman's gone now, but maybe Palace are struggling a little bit in the window, if you haven't noticed. So they probably will struggle a little bit more. But they did lay in some serious foundations. We've never done that. We've never done that. We've just never done it. You know what I mean? We've just never done it. We need to. And this is our chance to do so. This is the first season where a manager's getting the chance to work on the problems week to week. That's why I said, for me, I don't think it takes that much time. If you have the time. During the season, there's none. During the season, there's none. It's just game-to-game waffle. You know, Ten Hag, I don't even think he tried laying a system in. I think he just kept changing it from game to game to figure out what the hell to do. But regardless, we've never gotten this opportunity. And that's why I don't think it takes that long if you have the time. That's why where I'm at and what I've been judging on is second half of the season, you know? Second half of the season. You know, that's what I'm looking at. You know, that's where I'm essentially saying that's when I want to see that we've solved the problems, that we've fixed the way that we play football, that everyone's on the same page, and the second half of the season we should be fucking good because we have a good team. We should have a good team. A good enough team that with the system understood, we should be able to perform at a top 5 level. That's why I have those high standards. I don't think it takes years. I think maybe to perfect it can take years, but that's also just squad building, needing the perfect squad. We won't have the perfect squad. But if we get to January, we do some business, and in these next 3 months, we had this time to keep solving problems, I think we'll be very good. It's almost ironic because the first game that Ruben Amorim played with us, coached us, was Ipswich. And I think this almost goes to show it doesn't take that long to lay in the team and foundations if you have the time to work on it. We had a little bit of time during that international break, and I remember watching the videos. And you can listen to Ruben yelling about the principles and explaining what to do and all of that. In that first game against Ipswich, we weren't good at it, okay? Don't get me wrong. We weren't good at it. But in the first game against Ipswich, if you watch it back today, you'll see like the first goal we scored in like the first 3 minutes was basic Ruben Amorim football. The aggressive wing-back play, things like that. If you watch later in the game, again, even though Ipswich, because they're better, more well-drilled, did a lot of things, well in there, they were able to shut it down, a lot of it. But if you actually watch the players' positioning, they were slow, they were overthinking it, and they weren't good at it, but they were actually trying. The problem is then week to week after that, we never had enough time to actually keep working it in. And so it's like, well, fuck, we just do what we can and get by. This is our chance to do that. And again, like I said, I'm going to keep doing the weekly tactical videos after each game to see, are they getting it? Are they solving these problems? Are certain things getting better and better? I don't expect to be perfect every week. I don't expect to be perfect soon. New problems may show up. And that might be the case, but that's what's encouraging about this. And that's what I'll tell you is that that's what I want to see. Second half of the season, we go. We look really good. That's going to be my judgment. You can hold me to that. Second half of the season, the system should be flowing. When I'm doing the videos and the looks each week, it should be like, boom, they're making the right choices. Everything's happening. Burnley was closer, but there were still quite a few things they could have done better in that game. If you watch the video, certain things were much improved, but other things were less so. But they were starting to get some of the more variations and things into play. So second half of the season, not a title charge, but certainly top 5 form. That's how I see it. We need to be in there. Yeah, and that's mostly it. Otherwise, I just wanted to, I don't know if there's anything else, but yeah, I saw that. Sorry, I meant to go back to that. Oz Rahmani put in the City injury list a bit ago. It says Cherky's injured, Foden's injured, Kovacic's injured, Vardiol's injured, Savino's injured, Bettinelli injured, Rico Lewis, O'Reilly, Kusanov, and now Omar Marmoush all injured. Obviously, Rodri not fully fit or anything like that. You know what I mean? That's what's happened. So the other positive that I can say that is a real positive, and we kind of said time will tell, because I said, look, these are the things they're improving. These are the things they're working on. Sometimes it takes time to see it, is the injuries. I think United are doing much better on injuries than everybody else. Like, much better. If you look at Newcastle, Arsenal, City, they've already had players dropping like flies to start the season off. And United haven't. Cunha and Mount picked up injuries. Both are fine. Both are fine. System is formation, James, and vice versa or not. Not necessarily. Look, Glenn, I get there. People are going to see things different ways on this. I see a system is more to do with different questions. Like, how do you attack? Are you attacking through the wide areas? Are you attacking through the middle? How do you build up? Are you building up via slow from the back? Are you building up via long balls? Are you building up via direct to the front? What's your pressing style? Like, the different questions for the different phases of play, how you answer those is a system. You could do all of that in any formation, mind you, right? Like, there are 4-2-3-1s that are super defensive, right? They're park the bus football. We did it under Jose. Park the bus, counter. Then there's 4-2-3-1s that are not park the bus and counter. And there's 3 at the backs that are very deep, settled in teams, and there's 3 at the backs that that play ultimately all through the wing backs, and there's 3 at the backs that play a lot through the middle, and there's a lot of different variations within each formation. You might have different principles and ideas of where you want to go. So like for Ruben Amorim, you could say, forget his formation for a minute. What does he want to do? High counter press, mid block. Those are parts of his system. Those are features of his system. You could play a 3-4-3 as a deep block. You could play it as a full gegen press type of thing, but it's not. It's a counter press and mid block. So you press hard when you lose it, drop deep, drop back into a mid block, maintain a fairly high line. How do we build up? Well, we build up in this shape, and do we do long balls into the 9, and where do the wing backs play, and what kind of players are they? There's a lot of different variations that can come into play there, but I would call those things more the system. You could look at someone else's 3-4-3, and it'd be quite a bit different, So hopefully that's a decent explanation on the matter. But I kind of look at it like how you press, how you build up, how you attack. You know what I mean? Those are and where you defend. Those are for me the biggest tenets of a system versus a formation. So that's how I see it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we have more possession against City than they have against us, and I will tell you why. You know why? I was looking at the last time we played City. City are bad pressers. Am I wrong about this? I'm not saying they've always been bad pressers, but I do feel in recent years their pressing has been very not random but soft. Their counter press can be good, but and there's been times under Pep where obviously they've been incredible in the press, but I think City have been very average in their pressing. And one of the things where United still struggle at is if they're pressed too much, they go long. Sometimes they lose it in those cases because they haven't been that good at that. House made a good video comparing Glass. Right, and that would be a good one to watch the difference, even though they play very similar in certain aspects. But I think that City's weaknesses tend to match up with our strengths, and that's why I think we need to take advantage of it. I think that I've seen Haaland be a pretty average presser. It's odd to me I have a hard time measuring their press because they also drop off quite a bit on their pressing. Not that we don't also, but I don't know. I've always felt like you could really I think it's mostly their front 3 with Haaland in there, I think is a pretty lazy press. I think their front 3 that I've seen has mostly been a lazy press. Now, they're probably trying to improve upon that, right? I know that's why they bought in Pep Linders, right? But I remember watching and kind of rewatching the last year's game against City, and their front 3 press was diabolically bad. Like, it was so easy to play through that you practically didn't have to do anything. And it's one of the reasons we're able to find quite a bit of joy in there. So that is one area that I think we can take advantage of but what it means is that our center backs just have to be brave, because when teams don't press that hard from the front against us, it tends to be a little more clogged for the 10s. We have to be brave. Those diagonals, those long balls from the center backs are key. And of course, that's how we got in behind against City in the last game. You know, Lissandro got that ball over the top to Ahmad to win it, right? That ball is going to be there against City again. That play will be there. Those quick vertical runs, over the top ones, those are going to be there against City once again, because they're going to give you time. Their front three are not usually pressing that hard, unless I'm mistaken, but I think they're not that crazy with it. And, you know, they're going to give us those spaces because they're going to sit in a high line as well. And like what is really encouraging to me is Mbumo. If you look at what we did with Mbumo, what he was able to do in getting in behind was really cool. Was really, really good, and I think will be very big against them. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for that as well, because I think Mbumo is doing like those things that we were able to use to beat City last time even better. I think he takes them to like a whole nother level upwards. So I hope, you know, it's hard. It's for me, it's gonna be a while. You know, for me, it's going to be a while until... I'm not frozen now, am I? Yeah. It's going to be a while for me until we see, like... How would I put it? Until I believe that we're not going to drop off. Because, like, we can talk about the tactics, and we can talk about the systems, and we can talk about what we do on a week-to-week basis. And I have a lot of confidence based on what we do on a week-to-week basis and what we're seeing that we should win. And that we should be really good in these games against, like, City, especially. The part that I'm not confident in yet, which I think we all have in terms of, like, this is our trauma, right? This is our bad memories that we can't shake. Do we have another Grimsby? You know, are we going to see games where they just don't turn up? Have we stamped that out fully and for good? I don't have faith yet in that. That worries me more than anything. When we talk about tactics and we talk about system and this and that, personally, I think it's fucking good. I think I'm looking at it and saying I see exactly what it wants to do. And there's things that we'll need to improve and all that. I'm much less worried about it. I don't think we've lost to a tactical battle yet. I don't think we've had... I really don't. I really don't see it that way. I don't think that's been the issue at all. We do tend to turn up against the bigger teams, which is why you kind of have confidence against City and stuff. But like turning up against Burnley for me was a big plot positive. Like we turned up against Burnley, put in attack. Will we turn up? Like, I need like 5 weeks in a row. You know what I mean? Before I start to like settle and be like, all right, I know what United I'm getting. Because I can say all this good shit. I could say all this good shit and feel good. And then they just throw me for a loop. And then you start going, and you're scratching your head and like going, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? I still think there's way too much yap about the tactics and the system at this point in time. You know what bothers me a little bit? And I don't get it. You know what bothers me a little bit? Why is there such a violent need? Have you guys noticed this? Maybe some of you feel this way too. Tell me. There feels like there is still such a violent need to downplay any even signs of progress that United are making by United fans. Is it purely agenda? Is it purely dislike? Like, some of the things that have been said are crazy to me. And it's not even the matter of them being said, because people can have their opinions. But I feel like there are people who don't stop. Like, it's cool if someone sees things a different way. Don't get me wrong. And there's people I really like. They see things a different way. They don't like certain aspects. There's things like that. That's fine. But there's people who just don't stop. You mention anything good? No, here's why it's bad. You mention it might be better? No, here's why it isn't. Like, it's constant and it's never ending. And it's like, you could just say your piece once. You don't think it's good for this reason, objectively, this is what's wrong, cool. But it's sort of like, methinks the lady doth protest too much. When you have to shut down every single, positive sign as something bad. It makes me think you it's not just pessimism or a different view, but you're trying to prove it to yourself that it's bad. So you have to keep going on about it over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to like make it be believed rather than just being able to point to the evidence of it. Maybe it's because you don't want to be positive and then get proven wrong. I would much rather look at it and say, hey, there's positive signs. Yeah, it's early. So what? There's positive signs. It's better than having negative signs. It's better than having negative signs. I'd much rather be on top of the XG than at the bottom. I'd much rather be on top of touches in the opposition box than at the bottom. Just take it at that. That's all. I'll just leave it there. So that's how I feel. Again, it's like being wrong is worth being successful. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just like, yeah, to them, yeah, I get that. I just like, it's all good, man. It's just like, let's just, if you see it differently, which some people here I'm sure do, that's cool. But I also think it's very United-centric, because you have to bear in mind that this is one thing I think that goes under the radar, that goes like around the radar, over the radar, under the radar, or gets ignored. Okay, there is no standard. Understand that for a minute. There is no standard in football. Just think with that for one moment. There isn't a standard in football to measure against. There isn't this is the line. If you're above it or below it, you're good or bad. It is all relative to the other teams in the Premier League and the other teams in the competitions that you're in. Every statistic is relative, is good or bad relative to the other teams. So when you look at it and say, well, it's not good because of this and this and this. Okay. If it's better than the other teams, it doesn't matter how you explain it. It's good. It's always relative to the competition you're in. Football changes a lot. There are years the teams are worse. There are years the teams are better. There are years the teams play more this style of football. There's years that this style of football works. There's all of that. It is all relative to the rest of the teams that you're competing with. So even if you look at United and you say, a lot of chances, but not a lot of clear-cut chances. Okay, who's made more clear-cut chances this season? Who? Nobody. Actually, they really haven't. We've missed a penalty and one of our best chances. But say it's not enough. Not enough for what? Not enough for what? You know what I mean? Like, relative to what? So when I'm talking about United looking good, and I think it's good, it's relative because I've watched most of the other teams play at least 2 games from almost every other team in the Premier League this season. I've watched at least 2 games from almost every other team, and probably all 3 for most of the big teams. It is 100% been better than what Arsenal have done, better than what City have done, better than what Spurs have done, better than what Newcastle have done, better than what Villa have done, better than what Palace have done, and probably better than what Liverpool have done because they've been wildly mediocre too in most of their performances.
I'm crying.
Have you seen the goal Onana conceded? I'm crying. I did. I don't want to go in on it anymore. I hope he does well elsewhere. But like, I've watched, for Cameroon, I've watched these teams play. I've watched the rest of the Premier League play and go, okay, there's flaws. There's things that aren't, it doesn't mean it's incredible, but like, comparatively, I'd rather be performing the way we are than most every other team I've watched. I've not seen a top team play that well this season. I just haven't. I haven't seen who's playing at some mythical level where comparatively we've been so much worse. That's what I want to know. That's the answer. Because if not, then United are good. Because it's all relative. It's all relative. United could be absolutely shit, but you know what? If 19 other teams have been poor, United aren't shit. They're good. It's all relative. That's how football works. That's how sport works, because there is no gold standard. And so I think there are people putting their own standards in place, their own feelings, their own ideas about what it should be. And if it doesn't meet that, then it's good or bad. But that doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. That measurement just doesn't exist. That's the point that I'm making. And so I find that rather interesting. So anyway, that's what I view as the main conflict on that whole subject of discussion. It's just that there is no standard to measure against except other teams. So you really can't downplay when it's better than other teams, even if you think there are things wrong with it. Doesn't matter. I mean, you could go back through that Leicester season when they won the league, look at the stats, look at the numbers, watch them and say, oh, it's a shit league. Okay, exactly. It was. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be the best team ever to win the Premier League. You have to be the best team that season. You have to perform better than the 19 other clubs. That Leicester team may be a sixth place team this year. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Or last year. They might have placed fifth or sixth. They had plenty of flaws and things wrong with them. They were bailed out by, too much individual heroics on the goal scoring and Conte and things like that. So they were better than 19 teams that season. So they won the Premier League. What else is there to say? That's the goal. That's your competition. Your goal is not to reach some random number. It is to be better than the other 19 teams. That's what your success or failure should be measured against. And that's what the numbers should be measured against. And that's what performance should be measured against. There's nothing mythical about it. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, it's whatever. You know what I mean? We can't compare to those years. There's a couple of years where Liverpool and City were blowing everybody away. Everybody away. And I think sometimes people are looking and thinking that's still the league. It's not. City and Liverpool were better probably then than anybody's going to be this season or last season. Doesn't matter. There's probably teams from 2012 that are better than any title. Plenty of United's title-winning teams are probably a lot better than any team that's won a title since. Or most. But that's not the standard of being good. That's not what you're measuring whether they're any good against. It's season by season, against the rest of the competition. So I rest my case on that, and I think that that's where people are getting him wrong. Is it's always relative, and you have to measure it relative to the other teams in the league. That's it. Because there is no gold standard, frankly. There is no hidden bar. So that's it. If we can't get Baleba in January, we'd still wait for summer? Absolutely. 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 I just hope here that the weekend against City that we just turn up. That's the main thing. Just show up properly. Don't have one of these floundering games where we're just like not trying, and just not showing up. It usually doesn't happen in big games, but still makes me nervous. So Haaland coming off of a hat trick already for his international team, but it's against Moldova, so hopefully that's not an issue. Okay, that's it. Let's play fast. Let's play hard. Let's win against City. I'll be back tomorrow. I think Šeško will start. I think it'll be Šeško, Mbeumo, and Mason Mount. I think we'll see Šeško. My early prediction: not Mount. Šeško, Mbeumo, Xerxes, Bruno, Casemiro, Dorgu, Ahmad, Shaw, De Ligt, Yoro, Lamens. That's my early prediction for the 11. That's my early prediction. Because Mount and Cunha, I think they're fine, but maybe not starting for against City fine. It might be, he tends to be pretty careful. So that's my view. Okay, guys, thank you all. I will see you later. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow. Got to think of some other stuff to talk about. As we get to Thursday, Friday, it'll be a lot easier. We'll do a look ahead. We'll do the Friday votes and shows and all of that. And then a Saturday live, and we'll talk about the league and everything. For tomorrow, I don't know what to do. I'll figure it out. Okay, everyone. And again, for the members, I will have a video for you a little bit later just to talk about a few things, okay? And for everybody else, thank you for watching. You can always join the membership. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody. I feel like I need some cool, outro news music here, like like when the show ends and they have that music. Yeah, maybe I'll add something like that in for later to go over this sitting stream, but